Welcome, Gearheads. We are going to bring you a fantastic pre-race show for the Formula One Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. This is Jon Massengale in the studio in Austin, Texas, with Jonathan Green, my buddy.
Oh,
and Bob Varsha is zooming in from his home studio in Atlanta.
That's right. Let's light this candle.
Let's do it, baby. And Chris Medland, who we still haven't added to our intro, is going to be...
that's a good point.
we need to do that.
Yes.
He's going to be out there with his microphone live in the paddock in the pit lane. We'll see where else he gets. But he'll be joining us for the post-race show because he's doing F1 TV duties this morning before the race. But we have some interviews from Chris, really good stuff from James Vowels, team principal for Williams, and Jack Crawford, the American, trying to fight his way into Formula One, who had a pretty good Formula 2 weekend. So we'll hear from both of those that Chris sent us. But I got to start with yesterday's qualifying. I know we did a post-qualifying show, but sleeping on it, basking in it, because it was awesome, wasn't it?
It was one of the best qualifying sessions I think I've seen in many, many years, in terms of the intensity, in terms of the outcome, in terms of the jeopardy, when we all expected Norris to be pole. And it shows you what the edge that they are on is like, because it really wasn't some major error by Norris. It was the minutest of out of shapes, hit the wrong barrier, hit the rumble strip at the wrong time and bounced him into the wall. That was as simple as that.
This circuit, that's what this circuit really is all about, isn't it? The peril. Bob, did you see the Chris on F1 TV actually was talking about how the drivers, particularly Alonso and some of the others, just stand in awe of watching Max and some of the others, just any driver trying to set a really fast lap.
Yeah, it's Senna-like is all I can say, because that's what we used to do in the day.
Yeah.
You watched for Senna, and if he came out and set pole, went back into the garage under the qualifying format at the time, you waited for him to come out again. He had pole in his fist, but he wanted to do even better. It was really entertaining. He was very dependably better and better with every lap. And Andrea Stella, the team principal at McLaren, said something interesting yesterday about Norris's crash. He said these cars are too fast for the drivers to think, which is a really interesting and I think profound or fundamental description of where we are in Formula One right now. I mean, the drivers have to be able to drive these cars purely on muscle memory, so instinctively. And it's why it's so important to have time at the racetrack, because you can't wait and say, and think about how you're making the corner entry. You've just got to do it. And that's the problem that Norris seems to be having with the McLaren. Hamilton seems to be having with the Ferrari. Some of the rookies, Jack Doohan comes to mind, just coming to terms with the fact that these cars are so quick that some of the tracks really allow them no margin for error, not a small margin, but no margin for error. And that's what happened. I mean, Norris didn't hit anything until he hit the wall.
Yeah.
He was too high on one curb, went across the track, got high centered on the other curb, lost control, and boom, he was into the wall. I mean, it's just an amazing athletic achievement what these guys are doing. And it's kind of remarkable that we don't have more incidents.
And this circuit is the perfect example of what Bob's describing, because it was kind of built for this, wasn't it? Built to be really fast and really perilous.
World's fastest street circuit. That's what they wanted, and they got it. Yeah. I agree with you,
and they've
Bob.
already changed it once to move some walls back, and they may need to do that again. Of course, this racetrack has a pretty short predictable lifespan right now, because the Saudis are building a new track.
That's right.
Down near Riyadh.
Yeah.
So we'll see what comes of that. Apparently, the construction schedule is a little weird. It's supposed to be ready for 2027, may not be, but in any case, Jeddah goes into the rotational schedule of Formula One sites or whatever. But this place is just breathtaking when you do it right.
Yeah, and all of the drivers appreciate it. No matter, anytime they're either out in Q1 and qualifying and they're watching, they're all excited to watch every single lap, because if somebody gets it right, And of course,
Yeah.
let's not forget, under the lights, it just looks even more spectacular.
Yeah, and you know, I agree with Bob. You know, muscle memory is the key. I mean, think about how you type an email or whatever. You're not looking at the keyboard. Look at if you've got a stick shift car,
example, yeah.
if you've got a stick, or just a
Careful,
car.
careful.
You know, but you know, if you're not thinking about, okay, I must indicate now I'm going to turn right. If you are doing that in your head,
Right.
then you're likely to make mistakes. And and that's a poor example in that it's the most basic I can think of.
But it's good.
But the bottom line is, as a racing driver, if, for example, Norris is coming into turn 4 going, how much grip have I got on the back? How much have I got? If he's thinking about what's wrong with the car, which is clearly what's on his mind, because that's what he's talking to us about each and every time, rotation, mid-corner, it all sounds very complicated, but that's what's going through his mind. And if that's the case, then he's obviously leaving some of that concentration to catch that move out. And if you're Piastri and you don't have that monkey mind going on, and it suits, then you just drift through it. You don't even think about it.
Right. Another good example is Yuki Tsunoda, who's coming to terms with the admittedly difficult RB21. Tsunoda says, I know I'm going to have snap oversteer followed by understeer. I just don't know how hard it's going to be and when it's going to happen. And you just can't drive at 200 miles an hour with a wall, 3 feet from your head if you don't know what that car is going to do. It's a confidence track, someone called it. And that's absolutely what it is. Also a courage track, but it throws a whole new perspective, I think, on what these guys are doing out there.
Bob, you said something a while ago. You're talking when I mentioned the drivers watching, like Alonso watching Max, and you said how we all want to tune in to watch Senna or whatever. But I feel like Formula One is a little different in that, for a lot of fans anyway, is that we get into this, this mindset of, oh no, it's Max winning again. Where in golf, like the ratings when Tiger Woods was there or when he wasn't, it was like half.
Yeah.
Or maybe even
right.
worse. And I feel like that, we in some sports we just, we idolize them and put them on this pedestal. And but in Formula One, it seems like we complain about when we get a driver that's doing this good. And I know it's part of the team.
I've been interested in that we all, we were even talking about the figures for Formula One. Rory McIlroy totally captured the sports audience last week with Justin Rose.
Right.
And well, he should.
Kill the ratings for IndyCar.
Exactly. Kill the ratings for motorsport. And as he should, because like you say, that is one of those sporting moments of pressure that we can all understand and all get the sort of twitchy feeling because we know the pressure he's under. And the amount of racing drivers that I've heard comment on this, whether it be checkered flag, whether it be jet bowling in FR, but just the admiration and respect. A lot of them saying, I'm not into golf generally, but everybody was getting into it, of course. Rory McIlroy has a part in the Alpine team, so there's obvious interest there. But what they were all saying to a man and a woman was, "Gosh, that's pressure. That's I get that because that's mental acuity, and that's actually what they're dealing with."
Yeah, it's exactly.
It's excellence. Think of Muhammad Ali, your example of Tiger Woods. Michael Phelps, Max Verstappen, Ayrton Senna. When you have this kind of excellence, I just would not listen to people who bitched all the time about Michael Schumacher winning all the time. I said, this is excellence. This is a step above what's ever come before. And you're going to want to say, I witnessed it. And I think that's why, it'll always be that way. When someone comes out and raises the bar, you're going to want to check that out, even if you don't necessarily understand all that's involved.
Bob, in my younger buck days, I would sit in the pub in England and I'd been involved in Formula One and I'd sit around and people would ask what you do. And so obviously that would lead to a conversation about Formula One. And somebody would say, oh, Hamilton's useless, or oh, I hate so-and-so, or he's overrated. And I was, and they go on and they pontificate, sitting there in their Ford Capris about how amazing, how rubbish they are at X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And I'd finally get to a boiling point where I'd turn around and go, just so you know, you would pass out on the second corner because you don't have the neck muscles for one. So when you start talking about lap times and you can't do a lap, shut up.
It's very true.
Yeah, here's a good example. Simone Biles.
Yes.
When she dropped out in Tokyo,
Yep.
the Olympics.
What do they call it?
Her head wasn't right. Everybody expected her to wipe the floor with everybody else. Show us something new. Do things nobody's ever done before in women's gymnastics. And she just finally said, I can't do it. My head's not right. This isn't going to work. I have to step aside. And then she took all this grief from the far corners of the dark underworld, for depriving us of her brilliance. Michael Jordan, anybody who has the ability to go out there and make the people say, wow. It has two sides to that sword. One is you got to see it. The other is if you don't see it, you're pissed off.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's hear from the man that we were just been pontificating about, Max Verstappen.
Hi, Max. I mean, that was pretty breathtaking for everybody to watch. In the room we were watching as well. The feeling after that must be pretty sweet. And it was only 2 weeks ago that we were all praising your pole lap in Suzuka. How does that one compare to what you've delivered today?
Yeah, I mean, every pole lap is a bit different naturally, but this track is like, you need a lot of commitment. It is very enjoyable to drive, and the car is also giving you that confidence. And I think with the changes that we made into qualifying, it allowed me to be a bit more comfortable. And yeah, I think what was just nice again was the improvements that we were making throughout qualifying. Q1, Q2, Q3, just every time a little bit faster. The team was helping me as well with some corners where I was not entirely happy yet, and yeah, just find a little bit more lap time. And yeah, of course, very proud that we were able to put it on pole again.
And you said after you hopped out of the car that you felt that the car had come alive at night. I mean, can you expand a little bit on that? Was it the nighttime conditions, something like that?
Yeah, just compared to what most of the teams have, like FP3, McLaren was so far ahead that I think no one really thought that it was possible to beat them. So it still shows, of course, our limitations. But then in the night, when everything cools down a bit more, we are more competitive. Now, tomorrow is another story. In the race when the temperatures are again hot on the tires, when you're on your stint, it will be tough. But yeah, we are going to give it everything we have.
So in that case, what's, I suppose, the big challenge, the major challenge that you face tomorrow?
I mean, mainly keeping them behind, actually, because they have been so fast and all the race runs so far this weekend compared to any other team. Now I do feel a bit better with what we have done to the car, but I'm not sure it's, let's say, going to be enough. But yeah, that's the exciting bit. We don't fully understand or fully know what is going to happen, and the only thing that I do know is that I will give it everything.
Lovely. Thanks, Max.
I love the credit to the team there, the team adjustments during qualifying, the team all the way through the weekend. It's been amazing to watch this 10 years of Max mature, isn't it?
Yeah, and it goes across the board. I had the time this week to literally tune in to the first press conference and kind of follow all the coverage as much as I possibly could. So I felt like I've watched everything that's been output. And what's been interesting is that you've got the press. So starting from Helmut Marko's comment of sixth place, we're worried about losing Max, right? That's the starting point, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, the roller coaster, doom and gloom. To watching Max navigate a press conference with Alonso, asking whether he's going to join Alonso, and Alonso saying no, and Max saying, I'm just concentrating. What I'm getting at is that the maturity goes way beyond the car.
Oh, yeah.
He is carrying that team that clearly is lacking in the expertise it had, from pit stop timings to things going wrong, to Wheatley and the minutia that is needed running a team, to carrying a car that is not really capable of pole position, but he's getting it and winning with it, as he did in Japan superbly, and then getting out to the press saying, I'm just concentrating on the races. I'm just are you going to Ferrari? Are you going to Mercedes?
Carrying the team, like you
and
said.
Even Vowels, like you said, coming out and saying, what, why would he want to do that? There's so much going on around him, that storm, but he's keeping dialed in.
And there's a big case in point for why Max would want to stay with Red Bull.
Yeah.
And that's Giampiero Lambiase, his engineer. The secret to Max's ability to take pole yesterday was that final pit stop. 8 minutes to go, red flag ends, off we go. Lambiase said, tell you what, let's fuel it for 2 push laps, not 1. Don't want to make the car absolutely light as possible. Fuel it for 2. And then when you make the pit stop for fresh rubber in the closing moments, needs a clutch lap, we'll do it race style in the pit lane, tires off, tires on, 2 seconds on your way. Max said I don't have time to think about that. I trust Giampiero and the team. And that goes back to what I was saying about what Hamilton's trying to get used to, what Doohan's trying to get used to, what Tsunoda's trying to get used to in a new car, working with a new team, being able to trust the pit wall, your race engineer, and the crew to get it right and come up with an idea that, you thought, well, yes or no, I'm going to have a heavier car, but I'm going to have a better chance when they put on my final set of soft tires. I mean, this is all part of that minutia that it really pays off to read about, think about, investigate, and understand when moments like yesterday's Q3 session unfold the way they did.
Yeah, it's such a good point, Bob, with all the rumors about Max potentially going to other teams, Aston Martin, et cetera. But, all right, guys, let's get a quick break in. You're listening to Speed City. Back after these messages. All right, let's check in with the YouTubers. All right. TW's here. Andy P. Kevin Kelly. Kevin says, Chris really doing an over-the-top incredible job. And then he says, jobs.
Over the top. See, that's a play on words. See what you did there?
Yeah.
Clever boy.
Jobs also with not only us, F1 TV, but F1.com, Racer.com,
Motorsport.
Yeah. Jeez. Andy P, both Lando and Lewis and Duran do the same thing that's worked for them throughout their careers: dig down and extract more lap time. The circuit doesn't let you do that. Yeah, this is an amazing circuit, really. Bill Rickard listening on headphones on XM radio. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm laughing at Andy P says, JG dropping bombs this morning.
Yeah.
You with me, AP? Ride with me. This is going to be fun.
Let's see. Todd Dauber, an interesting idea about a car track faster than one can think. It's crazy, isn't it? I mean, when you watch these, when they slow it down, when they did the shadow lap, or actually, I think when it was Julian Palmer doing the slow-mo, and I'm thinking, the car just barely moved, and I'm watching it at how many frames a second? 500 frames a second? And you see the steering wheel turn. I'm like, how could he do that so quickly? The car barely moved and the steering wheel's turning.
I still can't get over that tunnel shot from last year. I think it was GP2 or F2. The reactions, the guy was slowing down in the middle of the tunnel and he came across him. And
yes, I remember that one.
I mean, that reaction was just sensational.
Hey, Mike Bowles is there. Hey, Mike. Go ahead, Bob.
Mike Bowles?
You have something, Bob?
Oh, sorry. I thought you were taking a call. Yeah, we saw it in, was it third practice when Lewis Hamilton was going slowly and Alex Albon came up on him?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's just like you're saying. I thought, I hope he sees Lewis. He's going to hit Lewis. Zing. No, he didn't hit Lewis.
All right, coming back.
Hi guys, this is Pierre Gasly and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
There's a growing expense eating into your company's profits. It's your cloud computing bill. You may have gotten a deal to start, but now your spend is sky high and increasing every year. What could you do to cut your cloud bill in half and improve performance at the same time? Well, if you act by May 31st, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure can help you do just that. OCI is the next generation cloud designed for every workload, where you can run any application, including AI projects, faster and more securely for less. In fact, Oracle has a special promotion where you can cut your cloud bill in half when you switch to OCI. The savings are real. On average, OCI costs 50% less for compute, 70% less for storage, and 80% less for networking. Join Modal, Skydance, Animation, and today's innovative AI tech companies who upgraded to OCI and saved. Offer only for new U.S. customers with a minimum financial commitment. See if you qualify for half off at oracle.com/formula. That's oracle.com/formula. All right, well, next up, guys, we have a great interview that Chris Medland did for us about an hour ago, maybe less. And he caught up with Williams team principal James Vowels. And what's interesting about this is, guys, we all know that James is one of the smartest. He's an up-and-coming, we look at James, and the beginning of this interview just emphasizes the seriousness and brevity of Formula One, how we're all fighting for that last millionth of a second. Here's James Vowels.
James, thanks very much for giving us your time before the race.
both cars looked capable of getting into Q3. I was hyping you up before qualifying. So the fact that Alex is only starting 11th, I say only 11th, was that a bit of a disappointment? Have you kind of not quite hit the heights that you could have this weekend so far?
I think the first thing to know is most interviews we ever do, we have a producer, people turning up with lots of equipment, bags of equipment, cameras, 2 microphones, lights. Chris, you've turned up with an iPhone where you've plugged in a microphone. I'm not even sure it's recording at this point in time. Well done. Okay, good.
Great success.
There you go. So just so everyone understands, the budget is just higher than I've seen before on other shows. Back to your point. Yeah, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed because we have 2 world-class drivers, and with Alex, we absolutely have the ability to get into Q3. And it's, again, as always with these things, not one thing, but accumulation of problems all coming together. And also, it's 2 weekends in a row where we haven't achieved the car pace and the car performance. So, yes, it stings, but that's a good thing. It should sting. That's a change in what Williams stands for. We're now a team that has aspirations and the reality to achieve 2 cars in Q3. I mean, we have to be honest as well. 7 milliseconds is what separated him, and that's the world we're now in. I think 40, 50 milliseconds separated 4 or 5 cars. But we had the capability to do it, and we didn't achieve it.
Well, this interview is raw with just the microphone, but when I had the TV cameras at the TV pen, Alex was saying that the strategy in qualifying he thinks is what cost him those 7 milliseconds by having that early run. But I asked him what the logic was, and he just said yes and nodded. So what was the logic? Why were you going for that strategy? Because there must have obviously been logic behind it.
Yeah, let's reflect a little bit what happened in Bahrain. In Bahrain, conversely, we were trying to get out into the queue of traffic and failed to do so with, if you look back at the footage, you'll see that we're just shuttled down to last and unable to get the tyres working. We're in a better position, but not too different here, where it really is on a knife edge getting the tyres working. And you would have seen a few cars muscling their way into the queue yesterday. With Alex, what we concluded was, let's just make sure we get our nose nicely into clean air. So that's the second bit of it. There was a little bit of straight line gain from a toe, but you do lose downforce. That's just the nature of these cars. So often running by yourself just means you can achieve, theoretically, everything the car can. There was a little bit of expectations maybe for a few other cars to leave the pit lane and just draw through the air before Alex crossed the line. That didn't happen. And I think when I say in hindsight, did we get it right? No, not at all. And I think he's right. We as a team have to take this on our shoulders and go, that's 2 weekends in a row where we haven't delivered. The converse to it is it's the same teams that are performing what's happening on the other car, and it just shows you really what I'm trying to describe, which is it's a knife edge between getting it right or wrong. And in the case of Carlos, it was brilliant. In the case of Alex, we didn't do a good job.
Well, I guess we saw that knife edge, though, even in race situation in Bahrain, where you were competitive throughout but didn't come away with any points. How's that going to play out, do you think, today in terms of the track? Maybe overtaking is possible but not easy. How do you sort of play it, trying to get one car into the points and keep one there?
Yeah, I think Bahrain's probably easier to overtake than here. But anyway, just summarising Saudi, pretty much it's been a one-stop for all the years that we're here. And actually what defines it more is where you get a safety car. And we have had safety cars or red flags most years. So that will play into it. I think near enough what tyres people are running is going to be pretty mundane. I don't think you'll see anyone on soft without giving too much away. So it's then centred between that medium and the hard tyre. Answering your question, from where Carlos is, what's great is on Friday we actually showed good performance relative to some of the teams that we've more typically been caught up in. So the V-Carb and Doohan, I think we got a little bit of car pace on those. Definitely got car pace over Aston Martin and Sauber. So that means that we're not going to be as threatened as we have been perhaps in Bahrain, where we have to react immediately when they do something. The converse to it, though, is between where Carlos is, where Gasly is, and where Alex is, it will be who pulls the trigger first, and the hope that we can make to the end of the race, and then the hope that we don't get a safety car. Bring that all together to answer your real question. Both cars have an opportunity to score points today because the car pace is there. But as I said, in the case of Carlos, it's making sure we don't miss out on that first opportunity. In the case of Alex, can we either go earlier or go on the really longer side in order to offset ourselves? And that's a debate we're still going through.
Well, just to end on a positive note, in the sense of, we don't know how the race will play out, but what we have seen over these last 2 weekends are some really positive signs from Carlos in getting more comfortable with this car. Just how much work has been done as a team to get him into that place, and how pleased are you that at the end of this triple header you're seeing the fruits of that labour?
Yeah, it's been, he's really put in the hard graft here. Great positive attitude from the first kilometre he really drove for the team. But every single race, he's really observant as to, here's what I'm going to improve, here's what I have to move forward, here's what will help me become comfortable quicker. And it could be modifications to seats, discussions, engineering, the screens in front of him. There's 100 things, there's not one of them, all of which we are improving because they are just making us better. So they're good, positive direction, full stop for the team, which is what Carlos brings. And really what he's been able to do is in a really concise way, here is the area very specifically that I need to work on. This is what I'll do next race in order to get myself there, and this is how we move forward as a team. And it's really positive to see how he effectively just processes it, uses data to drive it and move forward, and that's what you're seeing. I don't think we're fully there yet. There's still elements that we have to improve in the car. Some of them baked in. I think it's going to be difficult to get those fixed really in the space of the next 6-7 months. Some of them, though, we can still tickle a little bit, and that's the direction of travel we're going in.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah, I'll have our lawyers in touch with Mr. Vowels for slandering our equipment.
Our
budget.
high-end tech response. I tell you, having done that in Formula One, yeah, having done that in Formula One, i.e., just literally taking a crew with me, it's a completely different animal than you and me, as we've done at Austin, walking in, sitting down with our iPhone, hey, Gunter. You know, you tell they relax immediately. What I was going to say was...
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. But I was just wanting to say as a footnote to that interview, brilliant interview, because that is what keeps me coming back to Formula One. What he described, the minutiae of how close it is actually new in Formula One. I've never seen it this close. And secondly... Look, isn't it interesting? We've got the pace on Aston Martin. The changing platonic plates of this sport are ridiculous because now Williams are the new Aston Martin. In other words, Williams had nothing 2 years ago, and Aston Martin were on the podium here.
Wouldn't you, having James Vowels as your boss, would just instill confidence?
Oh, yeah.
It makes me so excited for what this rules change. You know, we all know the rules change. Somebody can get it right. And it doesn't necessarily have to be an Adrian Newey-led team. It can be somebody that comes up with an idea, the split turbo from Mercedes.
Does it not feel as we approach next year that somebody's put all the talent behind the cars in a sieve and then just spread it to all the teams? Because everybody from Wheatley at Audi to Vowels from Mercedes at Williams, you know, to ad infinitum where, you know, David Sanchez has gone, where Haas has now got you know, different people.
That's right.
It's really, really the talent now, the talent pool of Formula One engineers and principals and stuff has never been higher, in my opinion, and more spread out in terms of the shakeup, really, literally that Adrian Newey led.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah, it's got to be, well, any employee, no matter what your job is, knowing you can go to your boss and he's going to listen, he or she, and they're going to take into account what you're saying, and they'll interact with you about why you think what you think and what you see the upside and the downside as being. That's got to be such a confidence builder, and it just builds that sort of authority. I remember a million years ago, I was interviewing Jeff Gordon, the NASCAR superstar, about how he selected, and he did select which team he was going to go with when he stepped up to the NASCAR Cup Series. And he said, a lot of that had to do with my stepdad, John Bickford, because Bickford had very similar ideas. I think he and James Vowels would be a heck of a conversation to be a fly on the wall for. He wanted to be sure Jeff went to a team where they weren't just going to say, we'll get the car, you get in it, just drive it. Don't tell us anything, just go. He didn't want that. He wanted Jeff to go to a team, wound up with Ray Evernham at Hendrick, of course, where they not only give you the car, but they talk to you about the car. They think about what your feedback is, that sort of thing. The things that you didn't know, you learn. And, you know, that's obviously the best way for team chemistry to add to increased performance, it seems to me. And it all starts with a guy like James Vowels, who sets that atmosphere, that pattern. You know, anybody got an idea? Let's check it out.
Yeah, he's really quickly becoming probably my favorite team principal. All right, guys, we got to sneak a break in real quick. You listen to Speed City F1. Back after a quick break. All right, let's jump on the YouTubers. What do you got, Gritty?
I'm just laughing at our YouTubers. Yes, the budget is not high, folks, but I tell you what, we are delivering for you.
He didn't mention
spades.
the private jet that we fly Chris to all
flew,
these races.
He doesn't know Chris is staying at the top of the Corniche.
Right. It's where you put the money. It's not how much money you have.
I spent all last night getting green M&Ms sent over by FedEx.
Did you do the sorting yourself?
I did the sorting myself.
We're not cheap. We are sleek.
Well, I like it.
Efficient.
And the iPhones are amazing anyway.
Yeah, to be honest.
iPhone video on broadcast television.
But talking of quick brains, Chris is sitting there with the microphone, and he's also on Zoom watching our comments.
Yeah.
And I'm amazed at what he can do.
I watched him in Vegas in awe because I was doing the TV with Bob. And of course, we had two crews with us, one on each of us. I mean, literally, we had a producer for the cameraman, two cameramen, and a sound guy, and a lights guy. So that's our crew, right? Chris wanders by like some Marine because he's just got his iPhone and his mic, and he is ready to go. It would take us half an hour to move position, wouldn't it, Bob?
That's right. Yeah.
Hey,
Chris is a sniper in television.
Exactly right. A sniper. That's a good one. He's the F1 sniper.
TW said we broke the budget. We're talking about our budget on YouTube. Sending him a hat. You know what, guys? I've got something that I want to give away. They're these.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Well, you already got one.
Oh, okay.
These are the 2025 F1 official F1 organizer for the year, and we're already into April.
I don't have one.
Well, then have one. Here, have that one.
All right. Hey, look.
But you're already into April. But anyway, I was going to give a couple of these away, but now we're going to give less away. But
hey,
yes.
Who loves you? Come on now.
All right, Bob wants one too.
Right.
That leaves one. We're going to give one of these away to somebody.
Oh, Andy P, I can see you with this, mate. This is totally you. Look at you. It's even got your papaya colors.
Hi, this is Max Verstappen, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right, welcome back to Speed City F1. We're half an hour out from the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Jonathan Green is so excited about the calendar and the organizer, I guess they call it, the bound official F1.
You just come up with the stuff. I mean, hello.
I've completely derailed him from all of the epiphanies that he was about to have.
No, look at
Nerd alert!
I got maps.
I know, it's very cool. It's actually a cool little collectible. Let's see. I want to talk about this on the tire situation for this year, because Pirelli has brought tires this year one stage softer than last year. Drivers that ran the medium last year, the equivalent of this year's hard, for as many as 41 of 50, it's probably going to be a little warmer, but drivers are still likely to be able to complete it with a single stop, right? We'll ask Chris when he jumps on.
Yeah, that was before Chris jumps on. Yeah, I was just going to say, I picked up on that Vowels interview where he basically said, I hope I'm not giving too much away, but the soft is not usable. So therefore and one stop is what they've been doing in the past here. So it would sound to me that you start on the medium, give yourself some pace. There's always a chance of a flag coming out, or a crash of some sort, and then
a high chance here, almost a certainty.
So your stop would go to the hard after that and go to the end. So that's the obvious, for me anyway, layman strategy. I'd be interested to see if Lando does something different simply because of what he's got to do.
That's right. Speaking of starting at 10th, Bob, Varsha, why don't we try to do the grid in the early part of this segment? And before, I don't know if
Chris out of it.
I don't think he's going to be able to get on this pre-show. But just in case, we'll go to the Varsha grid, because I'm sure there's lots of good stats, as usual, in this grid from Mr. Bob Varsha.
All right, let's rock and roll. Row 1, P1, Max Verstappen of the Red Bull. After going from Austria last year to Japan this year without a pole, the Dutchman now has 2 in the last 3 races. The key was filling the car for 2 laps after the later Q3 restart and switching to new softs for his final shot with a racing-style pit stop rather than garaging the car. 42nd career pole for Max. Next to him, Oscar Piastri in the first of the McLarens, just 1/100th of a second behind for the Aussie, who's the only 2-race winner thus far this race season, remember. McLaren say they considered that 2-stop fuel load, but rejected it. Row 2, P3, George Russell in the Mercedes. Once again this week, Russell threw his hat in the ring with a late stab at provisional pole. No surprise for the only driver to finish top 5 in every qualifying and race session thus far. P4, Charles Leclerc for Ferrari. He should be happy, shouldn't he? Well, the Scuderia's master of the fast lap gave it his all, but the car remains off the leading pace by nearly 4/10. He complained of massive oversteer and understeer. Row 3, P5, Kimi Antonelli for Mercedes. The kid matches his best starting position of his mere 5 GP career. He's demonstrated consistent scoring, which is critical. P6, Carlos Sainz in the Williams. Another good performance by the Spaniard, out-qualifying his teammate and matching the team's highest starting position of the season. Next goal, matching Alex Albon's team-high finish of 5th. Row 4, P7, Lewis Hamilton in the second Ferrari. The struggle continues for the most successful driver in history as he tries to get his arms around his new car and team. We talked about that earlier. P8, Yuki Tsunoda for Red Bull. A big crash in Friday practice was quickly forgotten, and Yuki is becoming a familiar face now in the top 10. Still, he says the car is doing unexpected things and ironically gets harder to drive as the track rubbers in. Row 5, P9, Pierre Gasly in the Alpine. A week after scoring the first points of the season for both himself and his team, Gasly led a Friday practice and qualified in the top 10 once again on Saturday. P10, Lando Norris in the second McLaren. Excuse me. Just a couple of corners into his first hot lap in Q3, the championship points leader missed an apex, high-centered on a curb, and spun into the wall, bringing out a red flag and leaving himself with a lot of work to do in the race with, it should be noted, the fastest car in the race. Row 6, P11, Alex Albon of the Williams missed Q3 by just 7 thousandths of a second around this 3.8-mile, 27-turn layout. That's a lot. Watch for him to make an early move on the man starting ahead of him, Pierre Gasly. P12, Liam Lawson for Racing Bulls, his best qualifier thus far this season. Hopefully, the Kiwi can improve on his best finish, which is just 15th. And he actually smiled afterwards, perhaps because more successful teammate Isaac Hadjar is behind him for the first time. Row 7, P13, Fernando Alonso in the first of the Aston Martins. 2026 can't come soon enough for Team Green. Alonso burned through all of his remaining new soft tires just to get out of Q1 and had to bolt on used rubber thereafter. He says the team is, quote, out of ideas. P14, Isaac Hadjar for Racing Bulls. More tech issues for the French rookie here in Saudi. This time, a leaking drink system of all things. But he's the second highest starting rookie behind Antonelli, if you discount Lawson, who was ahead of him in the same car. Row 8, P15, Oliver Behrman for Haas. Last season's super sub makes his return to a GP track for the first time. He scored points driving for Carlos Sainz in a Ferrari then, and he'd love to repeat the feat in the Ferrari-powered Haas. P16, Lance Stroll for Aston Martin, new holder of a dubious series record. The driver who's been eliminated in Q1 more often than any other in the history of this qualifying format. P17, Jack Doohan in the Alpine. His best start thus far this season has been 11th. His best finish, 13th. Improving the latter stat would be a godsend. And teammate Gasly's recent showing indicates the car is capable of more. What was his problem in qualifying? 4 deleted race laps in one Q1 session and 2 pit entry violations. Somebody sit the boy down and talk to him. P18, Nico Hulkenberg in the Sauber, extending his record for most career starts, 232 as of today, without a single podium finish. And the way the Sauber's performing, he won't break that streak of mediocrity anytime soon. Row 10, P19, Esteban Ocon in the Haas. Speaking of mediocre, he says the Haas simply lacks speed. His best start this season is 11th. Best finish is 5th. It helps to remember that the Frenchman is a race winner in Formula One. Caboose on the field in P20, Gabriel Bortoleto in the Sauber, who missed free practice 2 on Friday with a fuel leak, which is a huge challenge to fix. The rough welcome to Formula One for the reigning F2 champion continues.
Yeah. Great job, Mr. Varsha. Thank you, sir. Jonathan, you're watching.
I'm watching our cameraman walk past Martin Brundle as Martin Brundle could inevitably, by the laws of physics, bump into his own son doing the same job
on F1
on
TV.
F1 TV.
Isn't that great?
Working for different networks, but they are actually both doing grid walks as we speak.
It's kind of an Inception moment, right? What happens if they touch? Will they?
Yeah, they turn into if they touch, they turn into Jackie Stewart.
I think they should have Chris Medland doing the F1 TV, but that's
because he's not busy.
Yeah, because he's not busy enough. Oh dear, they got him back over. He is on F1 TV right now, but all right. Let's see what else we got, guys. Carlos Sainz last year. Remember where he was at this race?
He was in a hospital bed.
That's right, appendicitis last year.
I tell you what, the fact that he did free practice 1 still blows my head.
Yeah, yeah.
He only realised after Friday.
Yeah.
Which makes the Behrman effort of getting 7th place here, if we remember, even more spectacular because he stepped in. He was doing F2 and he was yanked out of his F2 car and thrown into the F1 Ferrari team alongside Leclerc. And talk about coming up swimming. My word, did he?
Crazy.
What a name.
All right, well, Bob talked about it. We've talked about it several times during the show. Lando Norris coming from 10th, maybe one of the most exciting things happening today. Let's hear from Lando Norris after qualifying yesterday.
Hi, Lando. I mean, tough to know how to word the question, but I mean, how are you feeling after what happened out there in Q3?
I'm disappointed, but I'm fine. Thanks.
Good. I mean, how have the team been with it, and how do you kind of bounce back from that as well?
I mean, they got a lot of work to do, sadly. I mean, it's been such a smooth, positive weekend so far, so disappointed to have such a big setback. But yeah, I've got to take it on the chin, apologise to the team, to my mechanics and the engineers, and try go again tomorrow. But, the car's quick, the car's been good all weekend, so have to think how to overtake the cars tomorrow.
In terms of the damage, will everything be all right for tomorrow? And like you said, it's been pretty good so far this weekend, bar that one moment. Does that give you confidence that you can recover some good places tomorrow?
I think a good amount, but as Oscar showed, we're not head and shoulders above the rest. George is only a 10th off and Max is on pole, so I don't expect to get to the top few, but there's definitely a few cars ahead that we need to finish ahead of. So if we can aim for a top 5 or something, then I'll be happy.
Thanks, Lando.
Talking about Lando, because going into this weekend, the question was asked of him, comparing it to last year, and he said, are you confident going into qualifying? He said, I would have been much more likely to say yes last year, at the end of last year, than he is now. So it's so apparent that he just doesn't have the confidence in it.
No, and it's weird. I mean, the best line, because I'm almost worried about his frailty at this point, because I want so much good for him, because I want to see the best of Lando Norris. I do not want to see a headless Lando Norris, so to speak, or losing his confidence when he is, without doubt, one of the most talented guys. But he did say what I hoped he would say after yesterday, which is, I just take it on the chin and apologize to the team. Right attitude. Not all woe is me, and I've never driven an F1 car. That is not helping the situation for you, i.e. Lando, or the team. But taking it on the chin and going, let's move forward, that's Zach Brown. That's the attitude.
Yeah, that's the same phrase, take it on the chin, that Nico Hulkenberg used after dropping out in Q1 yesterday.
Yeah.
It happens. Of course,
and
Nico Hulkenberg doesn't have a McLaren under him, so...
And to be honest, having been a sportsman, at a very low level, of course, but taking it on the chin is one of the biggest learning curves when you lose a soccer game or a rugby game or any form of sport. If you don't take it on the chin, and what that means is, if you don't understand the reason for that, is to basically say, I understand what happened. It was a failure. We didn't connect with what we wanted to do, but we move on. And it's all in one phrase, but it's a clever phrase because it gives you psychologically that opportunity to move on. And you have to as a racer driver.
And speaking of moving on, like an hour after that interview, he was already recovering.
Yeah.
He was talking about, on the radio, the first thing that he said was, I'm an effing idiot, when he crashed, right?
Yeah, he did.
And then later on, he was talking about that comment, and he said, it makes sense. I agree with it. He says, I should be fighting for pole instead, especially on a first run in Q3. I shouldn't be taking any silly risks. But he was talking about it very differently, and now he says, I'll go and review it all. he was already moving on. And again, I said it yesterday in the post-qualifying show, is that these guys have been doing this for many years. They do have to be able to shelve it, move it on. You just threw in a quick pick six in the NFL. You line up the next drive and take your team for a touchdown for the win. That's what you have to do.
Right.
Yep. So the drivers are all, they've had their national anthem. They're going back to their cars. We're just keeping an eye on the field.
They're all have
you.
cooling towels around their
neck. If you are in
your
car, they're all trying to stay cool.
Yeah.
It is evening. It's cooler than it was, but it's hot. Always is. It's the desert.
Yeah. I'm just checking.
Hey, what about Formula 2? And,
yeah.
F1
F1 Academy. The Americans flying.
Well.
Americans going great. Really pleased. I mean, I think I said it yesterday in yesterday's shows. Have we ever had a time where we've had two Americans on pole position in a Formula One setting? And that, of course, is Jack Crawford for the feature race in F2 and Chloe Chambers in F1 Academy.
Yeah, you know what? Let's go ahead and get a break in because we have an interview with Jack Crawford, the young American who's trying to make it. Cadillac has shown interest in him. He's trying to make it to Formula One. You're listening to Speed City F1. Back after this break. All right, this is a special message going out to Kevin Kelly. I was talking to him about what if Casey was going to buy us a new 4K TV with a built-in app system so we could put F1 TV on that, where Kevin was saying, like he always does, we need to get multiple monitors and multi-view. And I said, maybe I'll get an iPad. I said, here we go. Here's what I did, Kevin. I just turned on my phone because
I'll bring my old iPad in if you want.
I know we should, but I think Casey should buy us a new big TV in here.
Wait, Casey, you make it sound like he owns the place. He doesn't.
Have you seen this place? He runs it, baby.
I know he runs it.
Can you imagine him without this place?
He has the purse strings to just,
I bet he could swing it for us. Have that kind of sway.
Yeah, that's true.
By the way, it's 88 degrees.
I saw his
Jeddah.
limo pick him up this morning. So.
Oh, let's check YouTubers, see what they're doing. Okay, Andy emailed his address in to get his book.
Good. It's nice. You'll like it.
Yeah. Jonathan was completely distracted.
Where are you squirreling away from us?
I thought I think I put him in my bag and then took him out because they were
the magic
too bulky.
bag. It's like Lion the Witch in the Wardrobe, that bag. There's a whole world in there.
Oh. TW's talking about, he said, had Lando equaled his Q2 time, he would be P4. Wow, interesting. Hadn't looked at that.
That's a good point.
George in his space jacket. Yes.
Yes,
I did a whole segment on George's space jacket on Wheel to Wheel.
Now he's got a scooter.
Yeah, there he is on TV on his scooter. I was saying they need to sell those space jackets. Maybe not the official, $1,000 version that they're using or $10,000.
Talking to George Russell.
Yes.
I was listening to Checkered Flag yesterday, and a comment leapt off the radio. This is the best start to a season for George Russell ever.
Yes. In fact,
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I threw some good stuff in my notes about that, actually, because I think I used it yesterday where he started top 5 every race.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
I'm George Russell, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Speaking of George Russell, there he is bringing us back. So we went to break. We're talking about Americans on their way up the ladder. And in Formula 2 right now, his second season in Formula 2, American, Houstonite, Jack Crawford, who we've spoken with many times. Chris Medland got to catch up with him because he started, this is such a great opportunity for him. I tweeted this out yesterday, is that Cadillac is, we had
his timing's perfect.
We had Loudon, the team principal for Cadillac, talking about him specifically.
Mentioned it by name, yeah.
Mentioned him by name, and he's been very careful about names who he's mentioned. He's mentioned Checo, of course, but Crawford being an American, they've said this. Mario Andretti was the one who's been banging that drum. They're going to be trying to put an American in that seat.
Yeah, and I hate to say
it's going to be a meritocracy, but
I hate to say it, but the older that Colton Herta gets, the less window he's got for Formula One, and he knows it.
Yeah. Well, Jack Crawford is 19, and Chris Medland caught up with him yesterday after he started the feature race on the pole.
I've got Jack Crawford with me here, and Jack, you just jumped out of the car after finishing second in the feature race from pole position here in Jeddah, but you lost the lead on the last lap. Through strategy, the alternate strategy for Richard Verschoor working, how does it feel at the end of that one?
Yeah, it's a bittersweet one to take.
we did everything right except maybe boxing one lap early, let Victor get in front of us for that one lap. I think that ultimately, hurt our race time, which is what we were going for. So, yeah, I'm gutted, to be honest, because drove my heart out, left it all out there on the track. I was doing qualifying laps from the moment I passed Victor to the end of the race. So, yeah, I was doing absolutely everything I could. Team did a great job with the car. Definitely can't complain there, but just ultimately fell short there at the end.
Well, just to paint the picture for everyone at home, you're here with the Pirelli cap on for P2. You're still in your race suit, sweat still dripping off you. How hard was it out there in that heat?
Yeah, even one single qualifying lap is tough, and I was doing about 20 of them in a row there. So it was honestly the hardest race I've done. Really tough, obviously, with the sun out. No shade at the moment at the time we do our feature race here. So super tough one, but we train for these moments. I said to myself earlier, if 2 years ago when I came into this, I wouldn't be able to complete that race, pushing the way I was, but I've worked really hard to get here and trained a lot for these moments. So.
Well, you've been looking strong not only through training but through your driving skill as well this weekend, or this season even, but not had the results up to now. 20 points on the board here with pole position and the second place. Does it feel like it's kind of going to kick-start your season?
Yeah, for sure. It's been a rough one, rough first 2 rounds. Up until pretty much today, it was pretty rough. Melbourne, unlucky. Bahrain just struggled for pace overall, and obviously mistake on my side yesterday, fighting in the points. But yeah, great recovery today, great race to have, and super happy with the points to not be fully out of contention for this stage of the season.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a wide open championship with so many different people in the mix there. But little bit of a break, only a small one, after this double header at TNX Racing in F2. Do you get in another race car between now and then?
Maybe. I don't know what I'm allowed to say, but there might be some testing coming up in some car. But don't know which one that is. But yeah, excited for the next upcoming F2 races, triple header. Absolutely love triple headers. So. Love racing, can't wait to get back to it and hopefully score some more podiums and wins.
Yeah, that triple header will be Imola, Monaco and Spain, but will you be in Miami for the next F1 weekend, or is that clashing with your schedule?
No, I will not. I'll be in Monaco for the Formula E race, doing reserve driver for Andretti, so unfortunately not in Miami, but I'll be in Monaco.
Well, I know you'll be supporting Aston Martin as well here this weekend. Just how nice was it to have the team out there seeing you, supporting you on the podium today?
Yeah, great to see all that green. It's been a tough year for me so far and as well for them. So great to everyone gets to visit the podium and, especially the F1 team. They're trying to do as good as possible and it's not working out at the moment. But, they're working really hard. So finally even though it's Formula 2, good to reward some of the people and make them happy a little bit. So.
Well done this weekend, Jack. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
It's too bad that Jack Crawford's not going to be in Miami because Chris and I are going to be borrowing the Pirelli Wi-Fi using to broadcast from. And speaking of Wi-Fi, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure can help you cut your cloud bill in half if you act by May 31st. See if you qualify for half off at oracle.com/formula. Oracle.com/formula. Yeah, too bad about Jack not being able to seal the deal on that win. Because
but as he said, I mean, if you haven't followed it, he's had a terrible start to the year. He's just had bad luck, and so
the strategy in this race,
exactly
affected him.
But what I like about Jack is that he's performing. I mean, look at where the new boys have come from: Hadjar, Bortoletti. Okay, Bortoletto was the champion, but Beerman, none of Antonelli. They were 6th and 7th, and that's where Jack was last year. And he's 8th now, and that's his first real points. And as Chris pointed out, there's going to be a lot of different winners from this, as we've seen from how it's played out. Yeah. Vesti's in good mode. Obviously, we got new winners again this weekend. I do think that this is going to be a really good open championship and one that he'll be in contention for.
You see who won one of the races this weekend in Jeddah? Arvid Lindblad, the new golden boy at Red Bull Racing. He wasn't first across the line. But the guy who was given a time penalty. So Lindblad at 17 becomes the youngest winner in Formula 2 history.
I was just thinking about that, how, it's April now? And I was with him February 15th, sort of saying, wow, this guy's on a trajectory to get to Formula One, and now he's winning in F2 in in less than 3 races.
And I tweeted out at Speedcaster as our account. I tweeted out the interview you did yesterday.
Okay,
if you want to get to know him, because that's what that interview
we got a nice.
is
It's about
getting
10 minutes.
To know him.
And that was the whole point of the interview, was to say, hey, who the hell are you? And it's a good story.
Speaking of interviews, I want to play this interview that Chris Medland did with Lance Stroll, because, as you know, Lance, his typical interview is about 6 to 12 seconds, and Chris did the best job of getting more out of Lance Stroll than anyone I've ever heard. Here's Lance Stroll with Chris.
Lance, it looks like you made a step forward compared to yesterday, but just the wrong side of the bubble in Q1. How close was it for you out there?
Yeah, very tight, for sure. I think we had our most competitive session of the weekend. It's not good enough, but see what we can do tomorrow.
Where did you find those gains overnight? What work did you do with the car?
I think just the cooler temperatures now. I mean, yesterday in Prix was cool, but just track evolution and a few setup changes. I think we progressed a little bit, but we still need more.
Do you have a good race car there for tomorrow? Can you do anything with it?
We'll see.
Thanks.
37 seconds.
Not bad.
You know what? I was kind of joking, but think about it. I bet he did give Chris a little more, because Chris has become the superstar in the grid.
He's a lot. He's got. You could tell. I having done the job myself, you could tell that they have a lot of respect for him, and they talk racing with him because he understands it, and that's a lot. With no due respect to a lot of the new people in Formula One, but their knowledge of strategy, tires, the mechanics of it all aren't as elite as some of the journalists out there. I'll say it that way. And Chris is definitely one of the elites, for sure. I tell you what, we can, instead of doing predictions today, they're doing predictions here on our YouTube site of how many safety cars.
Oh, that's a really good
Thailand
one.
says 2. Kevin Kelly says 3.
Yeah, I think we should make that part of our predictions, because that is
all right.
Like, what do they say? It's I can't even say it. Statistically,
it's easy for you to say.
Yes, it's 100% chance that there will be one statistically because of the past. But all right, let's do our predictions. I'll go first then. Why not? I'm going to say that this is just too easy. But Piastri. I say too easy. What am I saying? Max could easily win this thing. Piastri, Verstappen, and Hamilton. I'll throw that in there. What about and as far as safety cars, I'll go with 2. Okay. Are you writing this down, Green?
Yes, I am. Am I
All
going?
right. Bob Varsha, what do you got?
Varsha, okay.
Well, keep in mind the history of this race is since 2021. So statistically, as John might say, there's not a lot of data.
Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story, Bob.
Okay, my picks are Piastri, Verstappen, Russell, and I'll take 1 interruption.
Okay.
1
interruption for 100. Jonathan Green.
I'm going to go. Piastri, Russell, Norris.
Okay, write it down, everybody.
And I'm going to go with 2 safety cars.
2 safety cars. Okay.
It's all up to Medland. It's all on
Safety
Medland.
cars or interruptions.
Well, I guess.
Oh, that's a good point, Mr. Varsha.
Good point. Safety cars is what the boys online were doing.
A VSC.
So what did you choose, Bob? When you chose?
I said interruptions.
Okay.
Make a special note for Bob, Lord Bob.
Lord
Bob has pontificated.
Okay, we're 1 minute out, so I'm just going to give you a quick update. It is the weather is basically the same as it was yesterday. It was hot and cooling down. It's down a couple of degrees since we started the show, so it is about the same as yesterday.
No penalties, right? Overnight?
No, I don't think so.
Nope.
Yep.
No, I checked the documents. There weren't any.
Hamilton got away with
I meant to ask
impeding.
Chris.
Yeah.
Hey,
I
one
was
last
going to
little...
ask Chris if anybody's using the new cooling systems in the cars. I know it's not hot enough, but I just
I saw funnily enough, I saw Bernie Collins doing a piece on those cooling shirts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you referring to that system, or because it's a
it's
a
the new
cooling
one.
shirt like
The
they
new-
use
the
in
new
Le Mans?
regs. All right, we're out of time, guys.
Right.
All right, thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks, Jonathan Green, Bob Varsha, Chris Medland, thanks for getting those interviews, and we'll see you after the race for the post show. For everybody, thanks for tuning in.